Who dares defy me?
They are the villains. Ordinary people on the wrong side of justice.
Oh, yes, I was groomed to be an astronaut. And then the monkey. The monkey took my rightful place!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of the Villains Only podcast. It is I, Marksman, here with CeeJ, and usually...
Hello.
Yeah, go ahead. Usually we got Breach here, but we're going to do a special episode and introduce you guys to Villains Blue. You want to say hello? And then we'll get into
Hey,
it.
what's up?
All right, so I don't know how we're going to do this per se. It'll probably end up just like a conversation, but if you want to start... explain a little bit of what you've been doing, and then we'll just go from there. I think that will be quickest.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been gaming for a long time, and I started a gaming brand probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago as Blue Belly Gaming. But when Mark approached me about joining Villains, I thought that sounded like a cool opportunity. So I'm not a competitive gamer like you guys are. I don't play competitive COD or anything like that. I mostly play simulation games, but I foresee my role in the organization to be supporting you guys in the teams as they're out there. Also on the content side of things, helping out, leaving comments, retweets, all that good stuff, but just to be another voice to increase awareness of the brand and hopefully make some content of my own. I'm still sorting out what that might look like.
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
Pretty spot on.
I was gonna say, since CeeJ has not talked to you yet, CeeJ, do you wanna talk about anything that you've been thinking about, or I don't know, since this is kind of short notice, but
Let's see. I would mainly just like to get to know, like, I know he plays a lot of simulation games. I've seen a video or two of his when Mark and I were talking about possibly bringing him in. So I do have a little bit of a feel for his content, but do you mind explaining like what kind of vibe you kind of bring to the table, so the audience can see what we're trying to allow for to happen?
Yeah, sure, I can do that. So the content that I've mostly created, I'm a teacher by my background, so I kind of have like that instructional style in the videos that I create. I like to teach people how to play games, and since Villains is more of like a competitive org but still has the content creation side, I foresee opportunities, whether it's like new games that maybe aren't the big AAA mainstream games, but to still be able to create things that like tutorials, playthrough, walkthrough type videos that ultimately, it's helping somebody learn how to play a game, and it's bringing them back to the Villains brand. So, whether it's a new game that has a new competitive scene emerging or not, it's still content that will help people ultimately find the rest of you guys that are regularly live streaming and creating content and competing.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say for our end, it's been interesting because we're trying to branch out of just competitive content. We've been kind of in that realm for almost a year now. I think probably actually a year now. So the natural progression has been to get more creators and then just make it content on this channel and include our competitive side, obviously. But to have both worlds in the org, that way it's I don't know the wording for this because my mind just went blank, but that way we're diversifying our brand a little bit while keeping the original elements the same, and this is kind of like a step to that, as far as
Right.
for our audience can tell. So,
and this is a big step for us because he's the first like actual content creator that we're really getting under our banner, right?
yeah, that's not former competitive type deal. Like, we didn't meet playing competitive Call of Duty. I think that's kind of the
and on that, that note of like teaching players, teaching people how to play the games. I don't know if Blue knows this or not, but we've been talking about myself going into kind of like a coaching role for the competitive side.
Nice.
As for like, I'm making like tutorial videos and breakdowns videos for anyone who may be interested in playing, and maybe even submitting some videos so we can break that down.
I think that that type of content does really well in just when it's out there. Actually, one of the very first videos, Mark knows this, that one of my most the game that I play a lot is actually Farming Simulator, which oddly enough does have a competitive scene, but that's not what.
I still don't get
Right. Yeah, it's not farming at all. But anyways, that game is interesting. And one of the first videos I made, I was just like, well, how do you set up, a debt-free dairy farm? It was the old farm sim, was FS19, but I just filmed it. It was like 3 different short videos that I filmed, put them together, and it got like 8,000 views or something like that, which for a big time content creator, that's nothing. But for somebody who's just starting out, like, my mic was all terrible at the beginning, and it didn't have like crazy fancy jump cuts or anything, but it was answering a question for people who are like, how the heck do you do this without going into debt? And so I made that video that was helpful to people, and I've since learned, like, people want tutorials, they want reviews, like for a game that you're not sure if you want to go out and buy it. So somebody like me comes along, makes a 5-minute review, they watch that and they're like, okay, do I want to spend the $50 on it or not? And I think that's an important service that we can provide. And then once they find our channel, hopefully we can say, hey, like and subscribe, and then they come around and watch the playthroughs and the longer form content later.
Yeah, and I mean, we've been talking, me and CeeJ, of trying to get a content series going where, with the new COD coming out, I don't know if you know, it comes out in November, where we're kind of teaching them how to play the new game, or at least him, and I can assist in any way he needs. But that kind of content, we've not really ever done before, so I don't know how that's going to go. But it would be an interesting idea, because back when I started getting into it, there wasn't a whole lot of that, and that's actually how I met CeeJ, because the person I watched that actually taught a little bit of that, he actually knew. So I think there is a need for that kind of content out there, and I don't know if we'll fully be able to get into that market per se, but I don't know. I think that's something we're interested in getting into.
Oh, definitely. It's I see some YouTubers, like the big ones right now is like Arv and Hars. Those 2 are like the main ones that that's get into like what I myself might be getting into to some extent, because they will break down like gameplays, especially more so Hars. He's been popping off lately, but he's been doing this since Vanguard. But as far as like there's nobody that's really like willing to teach these days. As far as like allowing you to join the team and they teach you. Yeah, you don't really come across that. And that's something that's been known for a while.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as all gaming communities go, COD is one of the more harsh and brutal ones out there. I know there's some like I don't know. I hear Rust is pretty miserable. I know you play that. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Rust is a very toxic game, and it doesn't help people get in, which I think is
right.
what you guys are getting at with, helping out new players,
Mm-hmm.
because people aren't going to go, and have access to FaZe Clan, or
Right.
some big, international brand like that. They can't get an opportunity to interact. Whereas somebody like Villains, you guys can set something up where maybe you host scrims where people from the community can hop in,
Mm-hmm.
and you're playing against each other, but you're still saying, here are some ways that you can improve, because as we talked on a previous recording, Mark,
Mm-hmm.
about the leap from, wow, I'm pub stomping in this lobby and I'm really
Yes.
good, and then you go to a competitive and you are not even in the
Right.
conversation.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
completely massive step up, and if Villains create something that sort of helps people with that transition, whether it's a series of videos or videos that lead to people joining the Discord, that leads to them being in scrims, that leads to them being a part of an amateur tournament, like that
Yeah.
is a
Mhm.
service to the community that would be massive, and I don't think there are a lot of orgs doing that kind of thing.
Right.
There's a lot of like small orgs that like try to own teams and stuff, but there's not a whole lot of them that you know think of the little guys, right?
Yeah, there's not a lot of player development at our level, and that's kind of what we're trying to see if we can get into, because I think that that can help us grow and help some of these players grow. I mean, honestly.
And that's kind of what how villains kind of started, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like just teaching players really. Um, but that's going to be broken down in another video. But just what we're trying to stick as much to our roots as possible, like Mark said earlier in this podcast. But I see that a lot of the players, the player base has been dwindling.
Yeah.
That's not a secret. Even within the competitive scene, I've been competing since 2020, from like mid-season, and granted, I hadn't even gamed in like 4 years. So at that point, so I got a lucky break. Unlike a lot of these other players that you know just now coming in, that you know you you join up, you have one bad map in a week, and you're just dropped.
Yeah. It's hard to get into any of it. Um so
But
yeah,
even when you get given that chance,
yeah, you get in and you
it's,
mess up, you're gone pretty quick. It's unforgiving for sure. I think you were talking about a little bit, but not fully. We've been playing this Villains Play series where we play games that are, we'll play Warzone and stuff, but we've been trying to play like different games, like a stick fight. I don't know if you've seen that game before, but we're trying to get into different games. So I think there's an element of that where it would be interesting to, I don't know. I don't know if you have any suggestions of games we could play to just do something different from us, because now that we're mostly on the content side of the competitive scene, we've been trying to kind of out spread out a little bit of what we do, because I told CeeJ this earlier. Some people see our Call of Duty content, they're kind of like, we've seen that before type deal. Because there's only so much we can change when we're playing ranked play. When we do those streams, at least on our personal channels. So
Yeah,
right.
I think one of the things that I've brainstormed about in the past is like, oh, hold on. I think it'd be cool to say, how is it that a former COD pro play, can drop you into these different other types of games, and something like Rocket League, that might not have much of a parallel. But what happens if we put you in to Rust? There is gunplay in Rust. It's different, but it's a lot of it is about positioning. A lot of it is about strategy. That a competitive FPS player will have a significant advantage over the average, public player. So I think kind of having that angle in other games that you bring in, like I play a wide range of things, and some that I have created content with, and others that I haven't. One game that I enjoy a lot, for example, this is an example of what I'm getting at, that you guys would have a completely different skill set for it. It's called a Mountain Blade Bannerlord, and it is a game that there's like the massive strategy where you're like looking at the entire continent and you're moving your army around, but then you go into a battle and you're actually like in command of troops, and it's a 1-to-1. So if you have 100 guys in your army and you're fighting another army of 100, on the field will literally be 200 characters fighting, and it can scale up to when it scales into the thousands, it can't simulate thousands of people fighting at once, so it will do it in waves. But it's massive, and it's like vaguely historical, but it's got all sorts of different strategic elements.
So
but
slightly different.
Well, go ahead.
So slightly different, like chess, if I'm understanding correctly.
Well, it's like a battlefield. I was gonna say. I was thinking about the strategy because you played chess, CeeJ, but
He did in chess back in the day. So.
Yeah, and so you have that element of like the macro strategy of putting your army into battle, but then you're literally like first person, the commander of your soldiers, and you're telling 50 guys on the left to attack, or all the layers of strategy, but it's still that ability to fight in an FPS format. Like you still need the quick reaction time and the ability to put yourself in a good position. Simple things like flanking and knowing your angles and your shots all comes into play, even though like I think I'm a little bit better at the macro strategy, where you guys would probably be better fighting in the battles themselves.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because we're always just like type of games we play are very repetitive in the sense that we load into the same map, same type thing. We did play Rocket League once. That was a struggle. But
Yeah.
I would be interested in playing a little like broader type game like that, where it's not just the same thing over and over. Just as like, even if we're doing just for content series, I think that would be something interesting for us to do, as well as for the audience to see something different from us. If that makes sense.
I think I've always been a variety gamer. I mean, back when I was a kid, even I played different games on consoles than I played on PC. And so now as an adult, it's, I still do that kind of thing. Like I'll play FIFA on Xbox because controller, it's mindless. You go out, you kick the ball around a little bit, hope you win. Or I'll play NHL. Like I particularly like to play sports games on console because they're simple, they're repetitive, and I'm not able to play at the competitive level, and I don't try to. But then the simulation games on PC, where there's a little bit more depth, a little bit more complexity, I enjoy that for completely different reasons. And so creating content, you can be successful with a 2-minute question. Like this is a problem that I ran into when I was playing. Here's how I found the answer. You post that on YouTube, and 10,000 other people search for the same question because they can't figure it out. Or you can have an hour-long like let's play video on a simulation, and sometimes those do well. You kind of never know, which is why you have to poke around and see. Like there's enough market share. I believe there's enough market share out there for a wide variety of games for you to be yourself, and all of us have our own way of going about it.
Oh, exactly. That's exactly it. Like that's one of the reasons why we do it, what we do. And trying to get other, you know, similar-minded people within the space that can, you know, broaden. And because that's one of the reasons why, because we were talking in kind of in depth, Mark and I, about what kind of content creators that we were looking for. You know, both the broad, the broad stuff, the specific stuff. You know, and we broke down different types of content creators, you know, into like categories, right? And you know, we were talking, and we figured out like, you know, different content creators and different personalities bring different aspects, right, to the table.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, you know, we're also trying to get it to where like we benefit each other, right? Both sides benefit. That's what another thing that we were discussing, but that's a side note.
Yeah, and with that, I mean, I don't know when we'll get around to it. You obviously gotta settle into the different branding, but whenever you are ready to start doing the content on that page, I think it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Obviously, but yeah, I'm trying to think of if I have anything else before. I don't know if you watched our podcast lately, but we always end with some would you rathers, but I would want to leave it up to if you have any questions for us about anything as far as this goes, and then we can get into that.
Yeah, I think my big question is more so like, how do you envision me being able to contribute, other than, you know, just sort of following the things that I think would work as Villains Blue, but more so, how do you see me participating in the larger organization beyond whatever I set up on a separate channel?
Yeah.
Martin, do you want to start off with that, or do you want me to get that?
Yeah, I might as well. I don't know. There's always stuff that we're either doing a watch party if you wanted to stop by and, you know, show support there. I mean, it's really up to you in a lot of aspects. There's a ton of stuff. Like I said, you haven't played a lot of these games that we play, and some of them, like Fortnite, free to play game. If you wanted to, we could try to get a win with you in like a Fortnite game, and just that way, it's smaller, but it's still content, and you can use it, and we can use it. It's just like a collaboration. But if you don't, we're not gonna force you to do any content with us because you're in a different what's the what am I thinking? Different element of type of games, obviously. But if there is some crossover, some ideas that we can come up with, I think it would be cool to have feature you in some things. But yeah, go ahead, CeeJ. I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
What I would add on to that would be, you know, mainly trying to, you know, build each other up, right? Just having that group kind of makes the things in some ways easier. Because I started YouTube. Granted, I'm going to improve on certain things once I get my build, but once we have once you have like a group, it becomes easier to like bounce ideas off one another, and you bring a lot of different things to the table for us. Whether it be your experience with just coming up with ideas for content. You also have your own little niche that you have created yourself upon within. You have your own perspective that, you know, we can work with.
Right.
There's also the fact that you know, both sides have an an ability to possibly have some crossover as far as like maybe some potential viewership even,
Right.
you know, for both parties.
Yeah.
And that's one of the other big things that I think could be mutually beneficial.
Yeah, and if I were to add anything, I was gonna say that's kind of why when we've been talking so far is if you have an idea, bring it to us. We'll just be at the disposal of that idea because honestly, for us, we're on most cases. I don't know. I won't speak for Breach because he's not here, but we're down to try a game. Like we're down to try a content idea. We're not really like, oh no, we don't want to do that. Like, if we can figure out when we're kind of willing to give it a try.
In a weird spot.
Yeah, so in that case, that's kind of why I brought it to you. Is if you have an idea, let us know because it could only help. Because sometimes we do get singularly focused on a certain thing. So if you have an idea, we'd be more than happy to try it. So I think that
Sounds good. I think we can. I think we can make it work.
Yeah, and we'll try to do at least a piece of content with you in it in the next few months at least. I don't know. Our schedules have been so crazy on this side, but yeah, I think that covers the majority of. And I just lost my page on the Would You Rather's. Give me a second to scroll. That was so unfortunate. I was just ready to segue.
So what? Well, in the meantime, Blue, what do you think of what you've heard from us so far? Right? Because this is our first time talking. Me and you. Because this is like I know Mark and you have talked plenty. Have done content together from time to time. But what's your thoughts and opinions on what you've heard from us so far?
Yeah, I think it'll work out well. I think that's why I was excited to that's why I came up with the idea to do Villains Blue rather than keeping my other brand and just bringing over that brand wholesale to Villains, because I think doing Villains Blue will allow me to branch out. For a little while, I tried an FPS. I was going to do an FPS channel, and it didn't work out largely because I'm just not good enough at those games. And I sent it to Mark to see if he wanted to do some editing on it. I had recorded a Rust wipe that I was going to try to make into one of those good, exciting Rust videos. And I realized, it's just so much work editing like 4 hours of content into a half-hour video. It just wasn't practical. But Rust is just like that. It's not the same as other games where you're just playing, a 5-minute round and then you can hit end record. So what I'm hoping that I can do with Villains Blue is to do a little bit of FPS stuff that, really anything that I can come up with that would be bumping up against the competitive side of what you guys do. But yeah, hopping in to do content here and there. But mostly I see my role as being supportive. Whether that's hopping into a live stream or just sharing or retweeting, that kind of stuff. Just like you said earlier about the importance of working together as a group, where we're supporting each other's brands, and the rising tide can lift all of it. And as we do that, and the brand is more and more enticing for other people, then it's easier to invite them. Nobody wants to join a Discord group where no one's there. But you guys are building this, and the more people we can incentivize, whether we do things like giveaways or something simple like that, like, hey, we're giving away this gaming mouse, join the Discord and hop into this, join the giveaway. Well, there's simple things you can do like that to grow your numbers. Now, some of those people will leave right after the giveaway is done, but some will stick around and they're like, oh, wow, these guys are fun. They're easy to get along with. Now they're going to host a private lobby on a free-to-play game. I'm going to hop in and play. Like that connection, if you can forge those connections between the content creators and the gamers out there, I think anytime you can add to that, then they're going to be more invested in watching your content, and it just continues to grow and develop. So, being a part of creating that atmosphere is really exciting for me. Most of the time, I'd rather just sit in my computer room with my headphones on and just play some simulator game. But it is good for me and hopefully good for the group, for me to get out and play some of these other games, and it'll make me hopefully a better content creator. And like you said, the traffic back and forth can be mutually beneficial.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I think that covers a lot. I found it, so whenever you guys are
okay ready. All right, yeah,
ready?
fire.
Yeah.
All right. So the first one, would you rather have to wear every shirt inside out or every pair of pants backwards?
Shirt inside out. That's easy.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say, from a tactical standpoint, I'm going shirt. I woke up really late before I went to class, and I wore my shirt inside out anyway, so I've been there already. Would you rather live in a tree house or in a cave?
Treehouse.
Treehouse.
I do not like caves. I don't fit in caves. I don't.
I've never been.
Yeah,
I've never been with the treehouse either. But
caves weird me out. A treehouse seems pretty straightforward. I don't think I'd like climbing it every day, but they didn't say how high. So as long as it's a modestly high treehouse and not like super high, I'm good.
Yeah, I was gonna say caves. I feel like it's darker and creepier in a cave than in a treehouse.
Agreed,
man.
Yeah. All right, we'll do the last one. This one's a little deeper. Not really, but would you rather be in history books for something terrible or be forgotten completely?
Forgotten completely.
Yeah,
easy.
I think that's easy as well. I found that one because I was like, he likes history, so I'll put that in.
Yeah, I think I've spent a lot of time thinking about historical legacy, as you might imagine, and I definitely don't want to have a negative historical legacy.
Very much so.
Yeah, that's. I think you have to be a little bit like self-centered or narcissistic to want to be remembered for something bad. That's pretty awful.
Yeah, I was gonna say
it's almost sociopathic or psychopathic.
If you'd rather be remembered just for anything, then it's a little dark. I mean, it may be a little more of a villain mindset, but we're not actual villains. We just have that branding. You know what I mean? That's just our branding. We're not actually bad people.
We're not actually villains. That's like the tagline. We're just tough in game.
Yeah, all right. I talk big in game. Out of game, it's like I'm a nice guy. Yeah. All right. Well.
Yeah.
I mean, pending anything else you guys got, I think we're good to go.
I think
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate the invitation, both for the podcast, but also to hop into the org. I'm looking forward to getting started and creating some stuff, but also just supporting you guys and having some fun.
All right, sounds good.
I'm looking forward to this partnership, buddy.
Nice to meet you, CeeJ.
Thank you guys for watching the podcast. If you enjoyed, please leave a like if you're watching on YouTube. If you're on our audio platforms, you can follow us at Villains Gaming on Twitter and Villainous Gaming Official on YouTube. And we'll see you in the next episode.